Welcome back to Hashtag Single with Jeanette Bonner. I am not a relationship expert or sex therapist. I'm just a regular New York City woman navigating the world as a single, independent feminist. Hashtag Single is about having honest conversations with other singles in today's device-obsessed culture. So I hope you'll join me on this interesting, challenging, and complex journey as we navigate the ins and outs of singledom. Welcome back to Hashtag Single. It's me, Jeanette, your host. Welcome back to our August one-on-one when I have a brand new, fabulous single woman to introduce you to, who I get to talk about what's going on in their life, in the world, in society, and the patriarchal mess that we've all made. I'm so excited to introduce you to Kim. Kim, thank you for being on Hashtag Single with me.
Hi, thank you. That was such a great intro. I actually did a little shimmy when you said that.
We love shimmying. Too bad we don't have any video, but we can all imagine you in our brains doing a little shoulder shimmy. And Kim has brought her friend Ron to be the voice of the patriarchy with us. Ron, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, yes.
Ron, did you do a little shimmy when you were introduced as well?
I was doing a little Highland fling.
Oh, what on earth is a Highland fling? Please tell me.
You'll have to wait for that one.
Oh, okay. So obviously, as you guys could probably tell, my two guests are not from America. I connected with Kim in a Facebook group looking for podcast guests. I literally just put a call out being like, hey, are there any fabulous feminist single women that want to chat with me? And she raised her hand and invited her friend Ron. So once again, we are having an incredible conversation with a total virtual stranger from the internet, which is probably my most favorite thing to do. And we connect about something that we all have in common, which is the pain and the joy of being single in 2021. So, Kim, excited to talk with you. Ron, you know the rules. Sit back and listen, and we will check in with you at a later time to get your lovely opinion on all things that Kim and I talk about. He's already gone. Great. He's good. He's a good student.
He's being a good boy.
Kim, so if you've listened to the podcast, which I believe you have, you know, we all start at the beginning. So it's just sort of a status check-in. Tell me where you're at in your single life, in your single journey. What has brought you to this very moment?
Very, very, very single. Very, very, very not happy about it. So I'll be 59 in like just under 2 weeks.
Mazel, happy early birthday.
Thank you so much. And it's just, I've been on the dating apps. I think I've been on every single one of them since about 2013, 14, when I got a divorce. And I've tried them all. I've tried the ones that you pay for. I've tried the free ones. And I haven't really found a lot of difference between any of them, to be fair. You know?
Yes, that's pretty universal, yes.
Yeah. Well, my problem is I'm 5'8" and I like heels. So here in the UK, the average height of a man is 5'9". So that's just 1 inch. And I like I say, I love flip-flops, but I love heels too. So that's strike number one. Number two is actually my age. So I teach yoga. That's not what I do for a living. I'm a writer. But a few years ago, I took myself into India and trained as a yoga instructor.
Amazing.
Because I just felt like doing that. And I've recently taken up pole fit.
Wait, is that pole dancing?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love the terminology pole fit though. Like that really makes it sound so badass.
Yeah, they've turned it into a class. Oh, believe me, I was doing
so hard.
Wow. We were learning inversions the other night, and I swear to God, I feel like I've been battered and bruised. Like I just slammed my ribs into the pole over and over. But eventually I got upside down, so it was cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So when I'm really used to looking after myself because I grew up with a grandma who was very sick and she was confined to a wheelchair. And I think it stayed with me my whole life. You know, I'm never going to be like that. I can't ever get like that. So I do keep myself fit. And, you know, I don't believe in, you know, sort of all the older women shouldn't wear this, the older women should do that. That's just, am I allowed to say bullshit?
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah. So it is. It's total bullshit. You know, all these rules that we have around age is just a crock. basically. But what I've found is men my age or even slightly younger, they've kind of settled into their old age, almost like it's a rite of passage. Oh, I'm this age now, so I can just slow everything down and not bother looking after myself anymore. And so for me, that's always going to be a misfit. So there comes the problem of where do I find the match? Now, my ex-husband was 10 years younger than me, but, you know, he looks older than I do now. And he's a great guy. He's a great human. We're still good friends. So that's all cool. And then, you know, the boyfriend before that was 10 years younger than me. So that tends, I guess, is my mark. But even so, that's 49, that's approaching 50. And you still find the same problems. Like, you know, here I am at this age, so society says I should start slowing down, and they do. Well, not all of them, obviously. Ron doesn't, you'll hear that later. But, you know, they just, a lot of them do. So the dating pool for me is very, very small if you take into account the height and the age and how they would, you know, after themselves.
Yeah. That's, I mean, this is certainly something that's like come up before, just talking about ageism in dating in general. And then not just when you're reaching a certain age, let's just, no offense, but let's round you up to like 60 and over.
Yeah.
I don't mean to age you quickly, but you know what I'm saying? So like, it's sort of pervasive across, you know, and I think it really even starts in your 20s. Like it seems to be that men always are looking for this tiny window of young, attractive people and stop looking and stop pacing the age that they're looking for to match with where they're at, which isn't really the issue that you're talking about. But just to say that this is a conversation that, you know, has come up before with other single women on the podcast. And I think it is definitely a recurring and active theme in dating.
Yeah, definitely relevant for sure. So I have actually actively been trying to find a solution. And one of the reasons I asked Ron, so there's Ron, myself and Vicky, who we're all friends and all born in the same year, 1962. So we call ourselves like the Niners, and we have these adventures. And we were in Italy, we're in Tuscany. We managed to get there last year. I know, it was fabulous.
Bucket list trip right there. Yeah.
It was amazing. And we're sitting around the pool, and I was saying to Vicky, because she hadn't been on Bumble, so I said, oh, look at what we have to, you know, look how limited
Wait,
it
is Vicky single?
Yeah, she is.
Okay, so she gets it. Okay, yes,
yeah,
great.
Gets it. So I've got my phone out, and then I realised that Bumble is like it's where you are. And I'm like, oh, hold on a minute. So there's all these hot Italians. Hello.
Oh, yeah, you're in the wrong country for sure, yeah.
So I'm swiping. Well, anyway, we were only there, I don't know, for a week. But, you know, on the day that we left, I had a coffee day in Florence with a hot Italian banker who was 6'2".
Dreams! Oh, my God. Wait, he didn't mind that you were, like, leaving the next day?
Well, no, I was supposed to go back and see him. So then this whole idea developed in my head. I'm going to do this dating experiment. You know, I'm right by, not far from London airport, the city airport. I'll go to every city I can get to in 2 hours and do this little dating experiment, you know.
Just sit in the airport for an hour swiping.
But I thought I'd use all the apps. So I'll use Airbnb and I'll use Bumble. And, you know, I'll just kind of go dating in those cities. I can write from anywhere in the world and do my job, so it doesn't matter. So I thought I'd do that. And then I thought if I got an apartment with 2 bedrooms, then my single friends could come over. And this kind of idea escalated. And I was thinking, yeah, I'm definitely going to do it. And of course, it's lockdown.
Yes.
So, you know, I got bamboozled. I was like, oh, no.
But in a way, like, this is so interesting. Like, this is the time to have that conversation. First of all, because our world, like, our borders have disappeared in a way.
Yeah. In
the way that I'm having a podcast episode with 2 people in a totally different country that I've never actually met face to face, right? So this pandemic has allowed us to connect to people from other countries, and there's less of a stigma around it than there was before. Like, the idea that, like I said, even this episode is happening probably wouldn't have occurred to me a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, right? But also, and this is, I sort of talked about this in another episode, we were just talking about how a lot of people, their home base changed, right? So either people were in cities and they went home, or they decided that wasn't, you know, their values changed and decided to move their lives. Or like you're talking about, people, their jobs went remote. And we all thought, well, hold up, let's reevaluate. Do I have to be in New York City to do my job? Or can I go live in Bali? You know? So this is a brave new world. So I'm 100% about it. Like, why can't you, if you're not finding the men that you want to be dating in your country, why can't you potentially expand your boundaries and look internationally?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
So how long were you married for?
Oh, I've been married twice.
Okay, so sum total, how long were you married?
So my second husband was for 10 years. Yeah, I was married for 10 years. The first one doesn't really count. It was one of those things you do when you're like, when you're 21 and you've had too much to drink and someone proposes to you in a pub and you're like, yeah, hell, why not? I get to wear great shoes.
Oh my God, amazing. That's never happened to me. It sounds very much like a Lifetime movie to me. You're like, yeah, let's get married.
Why not? Yeah, it lasted 18 months. It wasn't as successful. It was just a stupid thing to do.
Oh my God, it's how very Hollywood of you. We tried it. It didn't work out.
Yeah, we moved on.
And how old were you when you first got married?
21.
Okay. And then how old were you when your second marriage happened?
Actually, 42. So I moved my whole life I've done it twice. I've just moved countries like on a whim because I just go, oh God, I'm fed up with this. So what can I do? And I move. So the first time I moved to Spain and I lived there for a year. But the second time I'd had I wasn't very well and I had a really stressful, high-powered job and, it didn't really suit me. I wasn't feeling very well. And I thought, I'm just going to change my life. So I moved lock, stock and barrel and I moved to Turkey and I thought, I was going to be in the land of sand dunes and, men from adverts. And I went to a coastal
men who ride camels.
Yeah.
With always have like a 5 o'clock shadow kind of.
Yes. That dark and broody kind of, man.
Amazing.
But and I thought I'm going to go there and I'm going to write a book. So I went there. I went on holiday. I think I looked online on a Thursday. I was there on the Saturday. I'd bought a house by the Monday and then I came back, did a 2-week turnaround and moved out there, lock, stock and barrel with my 18-year-old son. And
whoa!
I know. Crazy. And then I wrote that book, but I'd lived there a year and then I met my husband and everything changed. Now,
Wait, you met him in Turkey?
Yeah, I'd been there a year when I met him. And he was he's one of the best human beings on the planet. I love him dearly still. Not in love with him, but love him dearly. We're still very good friends. I get to keep all the family because I adore them and they adore me.
Oh, that's awesome.
It really was. And had this fabulous life in Turkey for 10 years. So, and then when I came back, the whole world had changed. I'd left as a corporate. I came back, everybody was freelance. I'm like, okay, quick shift. What do I do now? So, rode it out and decided to do the writing thing because I'd been doing that in Turkey. But the dating thing, I've never been single this long before. I don't know what happened in that 10 years I was away, but I've come back and I'm like, God, what happened to meeting someone down the pub? It's everything's online.
Even just like the last 5, I've been on online dating for about 10 years and even just thinking about what it was like around 2010 versus what it's like in the last 3 years, it's a totally different culture, a different climate. But that's why I was asking you about your marriages, like if this was the first time that you've been experiencing online dating on dating apps.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
What did you do in between your 2 marriages? Like, how did you meet people?
Just around,
in real life,
in pubs. Yeah, in real life. Where is that anymore? Yeah, but just in normally down the pub, really.
Well, and I think it's also frustrating when, especially for those of us who have like a before and after life. I'm 41, so I straddle the 2 worlds of like, pre-internet, pre-phone, and someone who can also build a website. So I always say you can tell someone's age by when you go out to dinner and you look to see if their phone is in their bag under the table or if it's on the table, you know? So I have a before and after. You have more of a before and after than even I do. But I think it's hard for people that have that before and after experience to come into this new virtual world and be like, well, I used to be able to just meet people in person, so why can't I do that anymore? You know, it feels almost like a flaw in our, well, I used to be hot enough to just go out and like meet guys at bars, and like now I have to be on this dumb phone.
Yeah.
It's not us, but it feels like it's a personal dig. Like I'm not valuable enough to actually just attract someone in real life. I'm forced to go into this machine, into this experience that I actually don't enjoy.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's got a psychological aspect to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was talking about this the other day with a friend. We were just talking about how a lot of dating profiles for men, they always comment on how much they hate being on the app. Like, can't wait to delete this thing, or my friend made me try open this profile, or just join, like don't even fill out the profile, and they're like, just join, send me a message. And it's really insulting because you're like, well, I mean, I'm here too, right? But what you're saying is like, you're embarrassed because you think this is below you, but it's not beneath me to be here. You know, it devalues me because your ego says I'm too cool for this experience.
Yeah. Do you think that that's really what they mean though? Or do you think they're just looking at other people's profiles and think, oh, I'll just write that?
Both. I mean, I feel that way. Like I look at the selections and I'm like, I am better than like 98% of this nonsense of like what's being offered to me. So it was interesting when you said that you felt that men were not making an effort because they felt like they had sort of arrived into this period of life where they didn't have to make an effort anymore. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I'm curious if that's actually an age thing. I mean, there is something to it. I think people, as you age, you give less fucks, right? So you stop going out with makeup on, or you like wear comfortable clothes, or you put on a couple pounds and you're like, I enjoyed that cheesecake, you know? So that's kind of a natural way of being, like, across genders. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if it's stronger in men, because I do believe, this is something that Ron can circle back later, but I personally believe that women intrinsically are always wired towards personal growth, like continued personal growth, and self-evaluation and self-assessment.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
So I find, especially with the women I've met of all ages, that we're always checking in with ourselves and being like, am I happy with my career? Am I happy with where I'm at? Mm-hmm. What can I be doing to be better? Should I be in therapy? Are my friendships doing well? Like, we're always trying to like be the best person that we are. Yeah. Or I feel like a lot of dudes are just, they're happier in a simpler way. Yeah. So that's not a knock on guys. I'm just saying that, like, I think we want more from life sometimes, and guys can just literally be happy being like, things are good. Why should I change it? You know?
I think you're right. And if you ever seen that, you know, that image on the internet, it's been around for a long time, the mind map of a man and the mind map of a woman.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Women are like, da-da-da-da, like all these things. Like, I have these 1,000,000 to-do lists, and I have to go to the gym, and I want to learn, and I'm going to become a pole dancer, and I want to go get my PhD. And like,
there you go.
And men are like, I think I'm going to watch the game. Yeah. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I guess from a male perspective, that, you know, that's quite hard to deal with as well. Are they simpler creatures? Do they, you know, in their brains, they seem to be much more relaxed and chilled about things, which is no bad thing,
right?
But yeah, I guess that is a really good point.
But when you're dating, it's frustrating because, especially when you're older, just because you're older doesn't mean that your values change. So you still want someone to make an effort in their physical appearance. You still want someone to impress you on a first date. You still need a high level of communication. Yeah. Like, just because you're single doesn't mean I'm going to do the emotional labor of, like, getting us together. Like, I still need you to meet me halfway, you know? Yeah, even if you are different energetically at that point in your life or at that age level, you know?
I think that's definitely, like, I feel like a lot of even some friends, the clock ticks and they start to panic, and therefore they settle. So they settle in the wrong relationships because they're worried that, you know, they're getting older and they're going to end up on their own. So they start to lower their standards. And I don't mean that in a, a highfalutin way. I mean it in, there are certain things that you want in a relationship, but then you start to forego some of them because you don't want to be on your own. And I think there's a lot of people that do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of people in unhappy relationships because the fear of being alone is so debilitating to people. Yeah. I mean, that's part of like one of the things I wanted to talk to women. I know you said you're unhappy dating, but I wanted to really have like strong, empowered, independent, like confident women come in here and talk about being single because it's hard to. I'm single. I'm not happy all the time with it, but at the same time, like I would rather be this than let my fear of being alone have me in a less than valuable relationship.
Yes. Absolutely, 100%. And I think, somebody should do classes in it because I really don't like to see that. And, you have these conversations and they say, oh, yeah, but he's good at this or this works and that works.
Like justification of it. Yeah.
And it's like, no, just no. I'm really happy, sort of human. I'm never going to be conventional or whatever, but I'm happy with who I am and I know who I am. And I'm not going to do settling. So I'm quite prepared to be on my own for the rest of my life if I don't meet, the right guy, and that's fine.
That's how I feel too. Yeah.
Yeah. Amen. Well done.
Virtual high five across the ocean.
Yeah. Here we go. I actually put my hand up then.
Oh my God, we had a moment. So I'm just curious if you feel if this is a generalized age thing, or do you really think it's like defined by your country? Is it like a UK thing? Are you finding it a trait of men in England? Like if you were in Tuscany again, if you decided to upend your life and live in your third country or fourth country, do you think you would date differently, or do you think you would experience the same thing?
I think the men are generally, I think it's a confidence thing as well. I'm a confident woman, and I've dated I've had a couple of dates here in the last 8 years. I tend to turn a man into a jellyfish, a really strong woman. You gotta have a really strong man, otherwise they start to, question themselves, and because they're not confident in who they are. So they jellyfish on you.
Jellyfish, like
no backbone,
roll over and be like whatever you want, or they just like don't make an effort.
No, not roll over in it, but they become indecisive. You become the dominant force in the relationship.
Like it's easier not to push back and question. You just sort of like I said, roll over and say, sure, do your thing, Yeah,
like you were saying earlier, as women, you want to do this and you want to do that and you want to do all this. And when you're in a relationship, I would like somebody to say to me, no, no,
Yeah. Because I think human beings like to be challenged. I know that's a huge generalization, and it's also a personality trait. But I believe that in general, like the reason why parenting is hard is because kids will take the easiest. They're going to sit on the couch until you tell them to get up and take a shower. Yeah. But without you telling them to get up and take a shower, they're not going to develop properly. You know what I mean? So like people need structure. People need to be challenged and pushed and be encouraged to be their best selves, to be a better person. Yeah. So, and I personally like my mind to be activated. I like to have interesting conversations. So yes, you're so right. It's so much more interesting to go out for a drink with someone who says, I actually don't agree with you and here's why. Yes. Because then you can talk about something instead of someone that's just like sits and nods and is like, cool. So, what else should we talk about?
Yeah, absolutely that. Absolutely that. Conversation, communication is so very important. And I think you need the experience to converse. Like I've traveled a lot and I'm quite old. I've got a lot of experience. I've done loads of things. So I enjoy a really good conversation. But, and that's quite hard to find sometimes too.
I'm really curious about the fact that you dated, or rather you married, you married men that were 10 years younger than you.
Yeah.
So What was the dynamic of that? Or why do you think you were like attracted to men that were like a decade younger than you?
I think that's because I would say in general, I probably look younger than, my age, and I'm probably more active. I'm probably suit that age more.
Well, that's like why they're attracted to you, but why are you attracted? Because you find they have more energy?
I didn't even realize my then husband was 10 years younger than me, because there's an interesting thing about like the Turkish men. My husband actually was Kurdish, and when they come from the small villages in the southeast, they don't get registered until they get to a big town. So you find that a lot of Turkish men have the 1st of January as their birthday on their kimlik, which is their ID card.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and you say, when were you born? And the mum will say, oh, it was the year of the heavy rains, or the year of the many sheep. So they're not 100% sure.
That's so interesting.
But we think he's about 10 years younger than me. And to be fair, he acted like 20 years older than me. He had a lot of responsibility from a young age. Really, he was looking after the family from the age of 12. His mum was, her husband had gone out one day and come back in with the second wife, and she went, no, I'm not having that. Yeah.
Oh my God. He's like, honey, look what I brought you.
Yeah, exactly.
I got you some milk and a new wife for me. Wow.
So, yeah, Murat kind of looked after the family. So he was very strong. He was very independent. He was very manly. And when we would date in, I'd be doing my, whatever, my craziness. And he'd be like, no, I don't think so. And just sort of like walk away. And I'd be like, hello.
It worked until it didn't work. We'll just put it that way.
And I think that was a culture thing, because when we date someone from our own culture. We have an understanding of, our own culture. So therefore, we make a lot of assumptions about why they're doing what they're doing, and vice versa. But in a different culture, you have to stop and think about that and question that. So it was, it was very attractive.
Yeah, and relearn the rules almost of like what his expectations were for a wife.
Yeah.
Which can be a little intimidating and scary, especially if you're dealing with a culture that wasn't westernized.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, I was not the ideal wife. I didn't cook, I didn't clean. The family did that. We went to their house for dinner. But what I did do was business, so we built an estate agents, and we did very well. But because of that, in that country and that tradition, I kind of, I didn't have to, or I wasn't expected to cook and clean and, all that stuff.
But that's so great that family accepted you the way that you were, and didn't put this external force on you to like mold you into something that you weren't based on their culture. Like, that's what a wonderful family to marry into.
Oh, so wonderful, and quite unusual. I know I was very, very blessed with them, and I still am. I adore them, and they me. In fact, they always say they want to build me a house on top of my mother-in-law's so that they can look after me for the rest of my life.
Oh my God.
I adore them.
That's really darling. You got really lucky. But you bring up this really interesting idea, which is just the idea of ageism. We're so imbued with it in our society. Like, if none of us knew, our own age, you probably know how old you are, but if you had the number taken away or the year taken away, like, I wonder what we would gravitate towards for dating. And if you took away the cultural stigma, like, let's say you were just vibrationally attracted to people who are in their 20s, but without the stigma of like, oh God, she's dating someone in her 20s, like, what's she doing? Like, how interesting would that be to just meet people online without the number attached to it?
I think that's an awesome, really, really interesting idea. Yeah, it would make a great experiment, wouldn't it?
I'm just curious, like, how, I don't even know. It didn't occur to me, like, everything comes through the filter of sort of relational relations. What I'm trying to say is like, kind of like what you said, you're like looking for men that are around your own age.
Yeah.
And we do that because we want to have a shared point of view, a shared life experience, right?
Yes.
But so everything is in relation to ourselves and how old we are. But so if I don't know how to undo that, how can you not think about that when you're dating? Because I'm always thinking about. I even just today, I was on OkCupid, which I went off of for a while because I was doing Hinge. I dabble. I go,
I've done them both.
And then I get tired of one. And I'm like, let's try this one again. So I totally relate to you being like, I've tried them all. I'm like, I have two. I keep expecting a different experience or result, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, let me just, whatever. So I tried.
With hope.
I re-logged into OkCupid, which I haven't done in a while. And my settings, I had a birthday. So I was like, this is so minute and this is so dumb. But I always have like 9 years younger than myself.
Okay.
Why did I decide that? I don't know. A decade feels too long for some dumb reason. So I've suddenly decided that like 9 years younger and 5 years older is what I've given myself. I don't know why. That's a whole nother podcast episode. But so I had a birthday and I was like, oh, I need to change. So now I'm 41. I was like, it needs to be 32 instead of 31 because I started talking to this 31-year-old and I was like, God, it's so dumb, isn't it? It's so dumb.
See, yeah, it really is. That's crazy that you have that programmed into your head, to be fair.
I know.
Come on, it's crazy. But
it really is.
31, like you've just said 31, and I'm thinking what first went into my head is you could be dating my son. He's 34.
Send him over. Is he willing to relocate?
He probably
is he
would.
single? How creepy would it be if you were like the voice of the Patri is going to be my son?
Wouldn't that be funny?
Let's
you
do
could start
that.
calling me mom.
Oh my God, we're projecting.
Okay.
But that would be a really phenomenal episode.
That would be.
But yeah, I know. I like, what's the difference between 31 and 32? I don't know. Somehow I've decided that someone 10 years younger than me is too immature.
Yeah, that's programming though, isn't it? That's got to be some kind of program in your head. So
it is. Everything is, even what you said about like the fact that you're finding men your own age, like, you know what I mean? Like a certain way or as they get older in life, they start to settle a little bit. Yeah. I think it's all societal programming. It's like whether intentional, like I'm sure there's so much subliminal stuff in there about how you're supposed to act at a certain age and who it's appropriate to date and how you're supposed to look at a certain age, especially as women.
It's all bullshit.
It's
but
totally,
there has to
totally
be
crazy.
Like a little, there has to be people like myself, like us, like Ron, like my friend Vicky, who don't fit into that structure. So where are they? Where are the dating apps for those people?
You have to make it. Yeah.
Okay. God, you know how many times I've wanted to do that, I swear.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like an ageless dating app, I guess. But
ageless. Yeah. It's kind of cool now. You know what I heard on your podcast? You were interviewing the founders of an app called Foreplay.
Oh yeah, just recently.
Yeah, I looked at that. I looked it up and I couldn't find it. Is that still a thing? I'm like,
it may be the way. No, it is. It may be the way you spelt it. It's not foreplay like the word foreplay. It's foreplay. It's like it's a pun, so it's FOUR, foreplay. But here I'm just gonna say this again. This is right on brand to what we're talking about. I love the idea of it, and I joined Foreplay, and I tried to get a bunch of friends to join with me who are not into it. And I thought about pressing it, but the more I look at the app, I'm like, and this is because the founders are younger than me. They're in their 20s. Okay. The people who are using it are in their 20s. Yeah, and so I've been like, it's not for me.
Yeah.
So like there it is again. Like I removed it myself from something that could potentially be fun because I didn't think I'd find anyone. Yeah. I don't want to date someone in their 20s, that I know for sure. Yeah. So I thought, well, if there's not people my own age on that app, I don't want to be using it.
Yeah, see, there we go again. We've done it again.
But I've excluded myself from an experience. Yeah. Yeah, simply because I've made a decision. And I mean, granted, look, this decision comes from experience. It's because I've tried to date people in their 20s and I've found that like they're just in a different place in life. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's just interesting to me to try to be open to the idea of removing that stigma that we've all put on a number.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, I get a lot of like 30-somethings. They're cougar hunters, we call them here. I'm sure you do it there too.
Just even naming them is stupid. Like, who cares?
I know, it doesn't matter, does it? But I always do say, you know, I've got a son who's 34, so to me that would seem super weird. But then, you know, I've said to some before, honestly, I've got underwear older than you, and that's kind of how it feels, you know?
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, it comes from something. It's not just like a societal pressure or whatever, or programming, as you said. Like, it does come from some point of it. I was 30 and I had got set up with a matchmaker with a guy who had just turned 55, I think, or 54. And we actually got on really well. And I ended it because he was too close in age to my dad.
Wow.
And that I couldn't get around that. Like, it just messed with my brain.
If you really got on well, and that was like a really good opportunity, but then something in the back of our head just switches us off.
Yeah, we had a full 45-minute conversation where he tried to convince me that it mattered more that we just like got on and connected and less about age. But I was like, it's a hang up of mine. I'm not going to be able to take your clothes off. I'm very sorry. And like, if you can't take that person's clothes off, there's no relationship.
Yeah.
That's what it came down to for me. I was like, yeah, no, you're fun. I love hanging out with you. We had a great kiss, but something in my stomach is saying this feels twisted.
Yeah. Did you say you had a great kiss?
We did.
So the energy was there.
It was.
Wow.
But, you know, it's an above the neck kind of thing. You know? We had great sexual chemistry above the neck. I was like, literally cannot take your clothes off. Like, I have a block. I have a major block.
Oh, yeah. That is so interesting. Yeah, I think I would be the same roundabout, you know, with a guy of my son's age. And the other thing as well, like with someone younger than you, so I keep myself really fit, but I am still 59, you know, I am. So, you know,
so you're
you have
self-conscious.
To think
Yeah, I understand.
I get off on Instagram all the time and I'm like, hey, look at me in my bra and knickers, I'm 59, take that world. I do that a lot, but there's difference between a picture and then, you know, actually in a room with someone
you're
who's
like,
35.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're like, are you cool with how women's thighs look in
Yeah.
regular life?
And you know, the tops of the boobies go after a certain age.
Some guys are into that, and that's great. But like, I just want to know that they've bought the whole package. So
yes, of course.
Shall we check in with Ron?
Yeah, definitely. Do you want me to move
Ron,
myself?
We have so many questions for you. Come back to us.
Oh my. Blown away by all this conversation.
My.
I don't know where to start.
Like in a good way or like a scary
very
way?
interesting. Fascinating, really.
Okay.
Yeah, no, some great stuff covered. I've written 2 pages of notes already, so I don't know where we go from here.
So yeah, hit me. What do you got first?
Let's start with the big topic that came out, because
Yeah.
that is so strong, is this whole thing about... ageism is a crazy word, but this whole thing about beliefs, we're programmed with these sets of beliefs which normally come from complete misinformation or from our childhood or whatever. So all these beliefs that we carry on into life, and now particularly when you're back out there, supposedly more mature, understanding, and yet you've got all this set of beliefs you're carrying with you, this baggage on your back, and you're heading out there as a single person looking for someone else. And you're actually reducing all the opportunities and chances of meeting, probably because you've got all this stuff programmed deeply into your system. I think that's fascinating. For me, that's the whole mindset stuff and mental and is fascinating. So I think, and then when Kim was going on about the cultural difference, if you then switch that and you walk into a completely different country with a different sets of expectations, then how does that come across? You know, because you have to drop everything you understand or know. It's still there, but it resets the clock. And maybe that's the way forward for all of us. Maybe we need to go and have a detox of a different sort, which is just clean the clear the brain out. Which is, look, you've been carrying all. You know, I have a conversation with people, and I say, look, you know, we go through life and we've got this backpack on our back, and you keep on throwing stuff into it. And I said, the more you throw into it, the heavier it gets. And you get crushed under the weight of it. Get rid of it. You got to evaluate what's worth carrying on with and what you need to get rid of, and that's the biggest challenge. And I think a lot of people don't do it. Fortunately, I've had time to start throwing a lot of that off and going, okay, what's really important? But yeah, fascinating. So one is this whole thing about age. I think that's massive. And I'm the same. I'm 59. I'm probably not a very good case study for you because I'm not a normal guy, but I guess maybe the way I look at life, and you got to step up. Every day's another day. Yeah. Step up, push yourself. Now I like to push myself the other way, where I step into my fear, and that's part of the challenge. Which is okay, right? Fear starts closing in on you. Life starts trying to close in, so step into it and challenge yourself even more.
Good for you. I'm glad you do that. We were talking about that earlier in the podcast, as that being, in my experience, more of a feminine trait than a masculine trait.
That's really interesting, because I do think so. Men will generally do something for an easier life, and if you've been married for a period of time, you have got used to saying yes and doing stuff, and I think we do fall into that trap.
It's sort of the same thing we were talking about, which is like it's scary to be alone. Like, it's easier to stay in a difficult relationship than embrace the fear of being single, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's just a general personality trait to push against conflicts. Like, you want to take the easier road and the easier life. And if that means maybe like making the wife happy or like going along with something she wants, like, it is, in general, most of society will be like, I'm going to put up with this because it is terrifying to have conflict and to confront people with where they're at. Like, it's scary.
Yes. Yeah, I think I agree. But I'm, I lived my life vicariously through my kids for 10 years. So that's where I hid for a while. And then I realized, hang on, actually, it wasn't. It was my daughter who put me on a dating app. And I'd laughed at it.
Oh,
yeah. It was a really bizarre feeling.
Oh, yeah. It's a very vulnerable step.
I almost pulled out of it. And then I thought, no, come on, let's do it.
I have a question
Far
for
away.
you. Like, are you finding the same disconnect in terms of the who's available to you in your age bracket that Kim is? Or are you looking in a totally different age bracket?
No. So I've done the thing. So I've worked out that I really don't want. So my age cap, although I'm 59, I think my age cap, I just checked today. I had to laugh. I thought it was 60. I think one of them might be, and another one it's 58 that I hadn't been on for a very, very long time.
Rob, we talked about this on another episode. If you are 59, you have to at least want to see women who are your age.
There you go. I thought they updated automatically. I thought they just keep, but obviously clearly not. So there you go. There's my get out clause. But okay. Yeah, and again, I thought the downside, the young side, was a bit too young at 40. I thought, Ron, that's probably not quite that kind of your thing. For me, I missed my 40s because I was living vicariously through my kids. So I've gone back to somewhere in my 40s.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm going like, well, it didn't really happen for me, did it? So somewhere in my brain, it's gone, well, if it didn't happen, it didn't count. So I think I'm somewhere back there anyway.
So you want to date women in their 40s? That's super interesting.
Do you know what? No, to me, it is all about, it's their outlook in life. There's got to be a connection at so many different levels. And I think that's the bit I really underappreciate. I thought it'd be very easy, or relatively easy, not very easy, but I thought it'd be a hell of a lot easier than it is. And I've been somewhat dismayed, I guess. So maybe I did listen to one of your other podcasts where you were talking about setting your geographic zone to somewhere else. And I thought, you know what, maybe that's the bloody answer. Maybe we should all just just reset and. Yeah.
That's Kim's MO for 2021. Yeah, you guys should do it together. Did you go on the dating apps in Tuscany?
So I'd switched mine off, but Kim, we were fascinated, and obviously we were all behind it for Kim to go and, Vicky, our friend, and who's watching on with dismay as we have this laugh about what's going on in the dating world, and I said, you've got to, just do it. Now here's the funny thing, because they like Italian men. I'm currently just struck up conversation with a girl living in Italy, in Turin. She's actually Costa Rican, living in Turin. And I'm going, that's kind of interesting.
Wait, on your dating apps, though?
No, she was over here in the UK at the time, just happened to,
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so there you go. And I'm going like...
Made her in real life.
Well, you never know. I'm going to fly out in September if I can.
I love this. I want updates from both of you.
That's what you got to do.
I think, but like, why the heck not? If you're feeling frustrated with whatever selection you're getting in terms of your age bracket or how the people are culturally in your country, like, I love the energy that both of you have, which is just like, if I'm not happy with what I have or what I'm getting, I need to change the script. So why not open up the world and see who else you can meet somewhere else?
That's kind of, maybe that's where we're all going to go, or we will increasingly. We'll go, run our worlds from wherever, I don't know, in Miami or Australia or wherever it is. As long as there's a connection, I got to sit in this office and I can work. What a fantastic way to go. I think it's just, it would.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And do the age detox. I'm currently going on an age detox to Costa Rica. I think that should be the way of the world.
I think that might be the new thing we create, age detox,
It started here, you guys. You heard it first here on #single. Kim, do you have any final questions for Ron?
No, not really.
I mean, you're friends, so you guys talk all the time.
yeah, we do. We have a little WhatsApp group going on. I do have one for you, though.
Okay.
If you just like to put it out there, if there are any like hotties in their 50s who look after themselves, who are tall and who like strong women, then, here I am.
Oh, I love
New York is not too far.
How weird would it be if like the #single podcast then became its own matchmaking agency? It's
Wouldn't
super
that
ironic.
be amazing?
It's super ironic. You never know. If you're listening, I should have like a 1-800 number. Are you 59? Keeping yourself fit? Have a good job with a good outlook on life? Please call us. Kim's ready for you.
Yeah. Well, not ready.
She will be ready for you. Waiting for you in Turin. You guys, it's been delightful talking to you. I really enjoyed this conversation. It's like really engaged me in different ways, thinking about ageism and the way we approach dating. So thank you so much for this super engaging conversation. And I love talking to strangers of different experiences and perspectives from different countries and different cultures. So thank you so much for saying yes to my post and for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having. I had a great time. I loved it. Thank you so much. And I will keep listening in because I kind of like your style.
Yes, love it. Thank you. And thank you, Ron. I know it's scary when someone says, do you want to be on this podcast and be the voice of the patriarchy? So thank you for saying yes, and I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. No, it's a pleasure. Really enjoyed it. And it was great to just sit back and actually listen, so I loved it, enjoyed it. So
it's a different experience.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. Very good.
Killer. Well, thank you guys again. And thank you, my listening audience, for tuning in to this badass episode with a one-on-one guest for August. If you enjoyed it, please hit like, subscribe, follow, whatever you haven't done yet. And of course, if you can think of a badass single friend that would really appreciate and enjoy this episode, please consider sharing it with them. As always, you can join us over on the socials at #singlepod on Instagram. Find us on Facebook as well. And we will catch you next time in 2 weeks with another guest expert. Thanks so much for being here. Bye.